You have 2025. This is 2026, is it not? Anyway, all right. Um, so that is the call to order. The minutes have been distributed for any corrections, additions. Anybody have any they would like to mention or offer? All right. We will have an open forum. And our apologies to McKenna and Steve, especially. We usually have a little bit better turnout than this. But anyway, and you are, oh, good. Well, thank you for showing up, Liz. I'm sorry?
I didn't hear.
Reed Union School District. Yeah. Our local school district. Yeah. So if anyone in the audience has something that is not on the agenda that they would like to discuss with us, this would be the time to do it. And I don't think that's going to happen. So we will move ahead with our first presentation from Steve Torrance. Steve is the director of Marin OES. I've known him now for a couple of years and through the DC3 committee, which he also chairs. And you have been under a great deal of what should I say, microscope over the past 2 or 3 weeks with the floods and everything. Oh, hi, Holly, how are you? So welcome. What do you have to tell us, sir?
All right. Well, good afternoon. I much appreciate the time this afternoon. Stephen Torrance, Director of Emergency Management for the County of Marin. In my capacity, I also support not only the cities and towns within the county, but also the special districts. And we pretty much coordinate wide-scale disaster response recovery and planning efforts throughout the county in consultation with the cities, towns, and special districts. And so I'm just going to speak on a couple of high-level items regarding the recent flooding and the countywide disaster proclamation that was actually ratified by the Board of Supervisors this morning, and also open to any questions. And so, first and foremost, a lot of people are used to king tides throughout the county. The king tides have been around just as long as the county has. What we are starting to see is the king tides are starting to be compounded with storms and also a lot of other climate-driven impacts. Generally, over the last couple of years, I've been with the county for approaching 3 years. We are able to see the king tides come in throughout the county. We know when they're going to show up. We know what impacts they're going to bring into what areas they generally hit the most. What we are recently seeing is that these are also starting to be compounded by atmospheric river storms, your traditional storms that are just coming through the area, and then also wind-driven impacts that are causing additional storm surge. Starting on January 1st of this year, coming into the new year, of course, we started off with our traditional winter weather, where that actually turned into a number of storms that were coming through. None of them actually had the highest level of impact where we would call it an atmospheric river storm. It was more of our traditional impacts. But what we've seen over the last on January 3rd throughout the county is we saw the combination of a significant rain runoff or riverine flooding is which we've termed it. Also the impacts of significant wind-driven storm surge in combined with the actual king tides themselves. For example, we've seen that the forecast for these king tides have gone up from 7.2 feet to upwards of 8.2 and 8.4 feet across the bay side of the county. With that, we had a number of locations, most notably on the news out in Corte Madera and the Larkspur area, where we had Lucky Drive, which was significantly impacted by the storm and the king tides. Over time, working with the partner agencies throughout the county and the state-owned infrastructure, which is the California Highway Patrol, the Caltrans, statewide Caltrans, which manages Highway 101. We saw a number of impacts that actually ended up reducing Highway 101 in specific areas down to one lane. We're still working with Caltrans and the actual CHP to figure out if the freeway actually closed at any point. But those impacts were actually not really sent out from the state. But what we've recognized is that there were significant impacts to community members that were going between North Marin and Southern Marin, but also commuters that were going from San Francisco all the way up to the north, the rest of the North Bay. Over time, that for this Saturday, what we recognize is that a lot of agencies did utilize their Nixle systems, which is, a lot of the agencies have access to Nixle throughout the county. We do not stop them from sending out those notifications, but what we did recognize on January 3rd is that the use of those systems only went so far. The people that were opted into those local systems resulted in people, from Central Marin getting a Central Marin specific update, people in San Rafael getting a San Rafael specific update, but there was not a countywide update that was sent out. And that was because most of the agencies did utilize their local systems. On consultation, after we've recognized the how those impacts did go out, or how those messages did go out, the county did decide to send out the notification preempting the flooding that was predicted for Sunday, January 4th. That we sent that out via Alert Marin, just because we knew that the impacts that we were seeing just at Lucky Drive were countywide. And with that, we wanted to make sure that we were coordinating with our law enforcement partners at the CHP, and also the Caltrans partners, to make sure that we were not only just informing the public, but we were able to keep the freeway as open as possible. As far as the next couple of steps that the county has taken, working with the National Weather Service, is getting some additional information as to why the king tides were predicted to go as high as they did, so we can continue to plan for that in the future. We've recognized that there are a lot of things that people are, as I mentioned, people are used to seeing the king tides. They know that they may not be able to park at the Manzanita parking lot, or they may not be able to get off on Lucky Drive. But there are a lot of people that saw impacts on January 3rd that had never seen king tides hit their homes before, or shut down the freeway in the way it did. And so with that, a lot of our historic planning that we need to do, that we have done, we need to go back and take a look at that. Specifically working with the National Weather Service and our county departments to really go through and look at our countywide hazard mitigation plan to see how it actually fared against the predictions that we are looking in our document versus what was really happening. Are we seeing this grow faster than what's predicted, or are we actually on track with what our county's annex is saying? Some additional actions that were taken, a number of sandbags that were pushed out. We actually launched just before the holidays. We pushed out a new countywide sandbag location map for residents to be able to look and find where those sandbags are countywide on one single map. What we've recognized that did come into play on January 3rd, where a number of agencies did report that they had people utilizing those sandbags for and/or flood fight materials. As far as the 3rd goes, the county did send out a number of county staff on overtime to be able to support cities, towns, and special districts. Deployed resources such as pumps to some of our special districts as well. But one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing is, although we had that response side, we want to make sure that we have the preemptive messaging to the community to advise what the community members can do to assist us in that process. Number one, if you don't need to travel during these times, please stay off the road. And that was one of the challenges that we saw. There were a lot of people that were going through standing water. A lot of people had issues with their cars. If we don't need to be on the roads during these times, we want to be able to alleviate the congestion throughout the entire county. As we know, Highway 101 is that main artery that supports our county. As far as the next steps that the county is taking with the federal administration and also with the state, right now we are still working on a preliminary damage estimate, which we actually are going to be working on that over the next couple of weeks. Primarily in areas such as Santa Venetia, we're seeing millions of dollars worth of damage to levees due to the compounding nature of the riverine flooding plus the king tides. At some points reaching some of the highest levels that we've seen since 1998. We do anticipate that the number could go a little bit higher based on our on-the-ground assessments throughout the entire county. But we are also working with each city and town to make sure that we're reaching out to say, if you do have damage to your infrastructure, whether it be businesses, private homes, public infrastructure, please let us know. That way we can work with the federal government and the state to make sure we can get resources into the county to be able to address those concerns. So as far as the next steps, as far as the proclamation goes, the proclamation is more of an administrative first step for us to be able to work with the federal and state government to make sure that we can have those conversations with them. And those businesses, those homes, that infrastructure that was impacted, we want to do what we can to make sure that resources have the ability to come into the county if they are deemed eligible by the state and federal government. Um, as far as the next steps with our cities and towns. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be sending out notifications to our city and town partners to make sure that we have their damage assessments correct. That way, the state can come in and we can actually go do field assessments with all of our partner agencies over time. Um, and so I want to go back a little bit to the Alert Marin pieces. I know we've made some significant improvements to the system over time, but I do want to address some challenges, of course. And I like to tell people that alert and warning is a science now. It is something that is not just a person pushing a button. It's not just the actual message. There are systems that are in place that go out, but we also want to make sure that the right tools are being used in the right situation. What we saw during the, as I mentioned, a lot of nixles were going out. People utilize those. What we want to make sure is where there are regional impacts, we use regional tools. A lot of times people get the text message, they might get it on their cell phone. One person is signed up, but they're signed up for Alert Marin. There are some things that we're going to be working with our city and town partners to make sure that when there are regional impacts, we have that training in place to make sure that we use regional tools. And so one of the things that we've already put together, and we've actually rolled the training out with our partner agencies, is to make sure that we are going out and doing first responder requester training. So in the event that whether you're a law enforcement officer, a fire officer, public works, if you see impacts, you know the process to be able to contact the Office of Emergency Management to get that notification out to the public. That way we can work with each and every agency to make sure that the right message is going through the right modality. And also in the event that you see that this is escalating, we can use our judgment. To make sure we can improve that message. And I'll highlight, for example, we've talked about some of the impacts to infrastructure. That evening on January 4th, we had the countywide, mostly widespread 911 outage. With that, a lot of people saw the tools that we do have in our tool belt to be able to alert the public, which was the use of the countywide wireless emergency alert system. A lot of people saw that go off on their cell phones, on their devices if they were in the county, to be able to let people know there was a 911 outage and here are the next steps to be able to protect yourself. That is one of the situations where we worked with the requesting agency to make sure we use the right system to notify members of the public of what was going on, in addition to calling people's home phones and sending out text messages through Alert Marin. These are the tools that we all have at our collective disposal, be able to notify and update the public. And what we want to do is be able to look at those things, whether it's for a king tide or a 911 outage, to make sure that the right tools are being used to be able to inform the public as quick as possible. And so with that, I will pause as far as kind of the updates there, and then open up to any questions going forward on either the flooding. I can't really speak to the 911 outage in depth just because there's still an ongoing coordination with AT&T, who's our service provider. But for the most part, I can address any questions to the best of my ability on these.
Adam?
So, Mr. Torrance, thanks for that. That was a thorough explanation. I want to go back just really quick. It's easy to quarterback, 2020 after the event is over. So I have some history. I've developed DOCs. I've opened DOCs. I've in storms. And so I want to go back to January 3rd. That would be the only thing I would offer to you, a different thought or something else. I understand the local, the Nixle, but that might have been a time for you guys also to put out a message towards the end of the day. And the reason why I figure is because I didn't get a nixle, and I'm thinking it's a countywide impact, right? At that point, on the 3rd, by about 4 p.m., we knew the freeway was closing. I thought that might have been a time, again, judgment call, and I'm saying it to you calmly 2 weeks later. But I would just offer that up to maybe being slightly more forward-leaning, possibly in these events. I think it would have been helpful. Please.
Yeah, and that's actually what drove us to send out the message on Sunday.
Right.
Is when we started actually seeing what the impacts were on January 3rd. It was actually after the tides had receded, and so that is one of the first things that we're going to be doing is working with Highway Patrol and Caltrans to make sure we get that information out so it doesn't come out after the fact. As what we recognize is that the impacts that we actually saw were closer to 5 and 6 o'clock when the tides were completely receded and the impacts were the residual impacts were there. So definitely taken, and that is exactly the stance that we tend to take. We just need to work forward leaning with our partners to make sure that they are providing us that information up front.
Well, Steve, in regard to 911, obviously that's a major concern of ours, and you say you don't have that much information yet. Do we have any idea why 911 went down?
We have a general idea. At this point, we cannot point to anything that happened within our government structures that failed. What we're looking at is working with our telecommunications partners to figure out what those downstream impacts were with their infrastructure, and we're waiting for reports from them to be able to identify what those were. But we want to give them some time for them to.
And we're talking about PG&E or what?
Right now, we're focused on the telecommunication companies.
Okay. Can you let us know when you do find out? Because that's obviously a major concern of ours.
It is.
And my understanding was, and this is all hearsay because I just read it in the ARC and things and in the IJ, that Alert Marin was down for a period of time also.
So
Is that
that is incorrect. And so what we've recognized is the Alert Marin system was utilized during that 911 outage to be able to send out the text messages and phone calls. What was potentially down was people's devices to receive those. So if you had an AT&T landline, if you potentially had an AT&T cell phone, we did see a degradation of services on the carrier side. But at no point did our Alert Marin system go down. We actually were able to send out 3 messages, potentially 4. Don't correct me if I'll go back and double check. But we sent out 2 WIAs, 2 wireless emergency alerts, and we sent out the text messages and phone calls with those updates as well. And so at no point do we see an impact to the Alert Marin system. However, we did see that people that had their home internet, also their cell phone services through those providers did see impacts.
So it seems to go back to the carriers again.
That is correct.
Another thing that kind of surprised me, again, I read this in the newspaper, and Gary Mazzani, I guess I'd like your opinion. People were advised when 9/11 and all communications were out, that they should report to their police department or fire department, which over the years has been the last thing we wanted residents to do, is converge on the police and fire departments, which are undergoing operations at that time. But this time, that's what they were advised to do.
That is correct. And so with this situation, we looked at countywide. We wanted to make sure that we can get an information bulletin out to the community as quick as possible. What came from our interim fire chief was to make sure that we send out that message to go to the fire stations in the event that you had an emergency. That was the best case scenario at the time. We're actually going to be working with our county partners to figure out if that's what we want to do going forward. However, based off of 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday, that was the best tool in our belt to be able to get people, if they had an emergency, they could get to services as quick as possible. And the associated fire agencies did make those adjustments to be able to accompany people potentially going to fire stations for 911 emergencies.
And Gary, I guess, Tiburon wasn't hugely impacted by all of this, as were some areas of the county. But did anybody show up at the fire department? Were you inundated with anybody, or?
Not to my knowledge, but like you said, it would be counterproductive if they were out for emergency operations. So I think something that we'll also work together for ongoing ahead of time. But I guess possibly we've had people come to the station with a medical emergency, but advise, not to if they're out on a call. They may not be at the station, so that could be counterproductive.
Okay.
And we do have data that shows that 2 people did go to countywide stations to report emergencies. And so we do recognize that the message did get to the public, and those stations did have personnel actually at those locations ready to receive them.
Good question, yeah.
Just going back to the different alert systems, there seems to be 2 major systems, the Nixle and the Alert Marin. There seems to be confusion amongst the number of residents of which they should be signed up for. Should they be signed up for both? Or, can they rely on one or the other? An example was last night I received an email from the Sheriff's Department, which had a link to Alert Marin, except it went to the old system. It went to the Everbridge system, which I believe has been phased out, and you're now using the Sercom, platform to manage, Alert Marin. So can you just clarify, what Nixle is used for, what Alert Marin's used for, and what systems should people sign up for? And also, if people had previously signed up for Alert Marin using the Everbridge platform, did that information transfer onto the Sercom platform? And, has it all synced together and been brought up to date?
So I'll speak first to the Alert Marin system and what it's used for. So generally, we've historically used the Alert Marin system for actions that are needed by the public or sending out emergency information that is pertinent for everyone to know. And so, for example, in the event that there is a shelter in place, we're doing evacuations or there's significant closures, we send out Alert Marins. Over time, what we've seen with the Alert Marin system is that more and more agencies don't have tools to be able to send out their own local notifications, and therefore they utilize the Alert Marin system for lower tier notifications. Today, we use Alert Marin also for prescribed burn notifications because those are countywide, but they also have countywide and regional impacts. In addition to that, we are looking at expanding the use of it for example, for bridge closures, because in the event that we had, I believe it was about a year and a half ago, when the Richmond San Rafael Bridge closed for an evening, it was about 17 hours that bridge was closed. We saw countywide impacts, and so that was an opportunity for us to send that notification out to a wider audience. And so generally what we want to do is make sure that we're sending out, as I mentioned, if there's regional impacts, we want to use a regional tool, which is Alert Marin. Going into kind of your second question about the migration from Everbridge, that was a system, the system actually did not meet some of our new AB 1638 guidelines, which requires us to do notifications in multiple languages, and that was the catalyst for us to switch. However, we were able to successfully migrate all of the data from the Everbridge platform to our new Alert Marin platform that's serviced by Sercom. With that, I want to stress alert and warning is just like your smoke detectors in your home. We want people to go through and revisit it. We want people to go through and confirm that their phone numbers are correct. What we've recognized over time is people said, yeah, I signed up 12 years ago, but they forget that they changed their phone number. They forget that their landline probably has been disconnected and they now use their cell phone as their primary landline. We want people in the system so they can revisit those tools to see if their information is set up the correct way, as we don't want them to figure out the hard way when they don't get that notification. And so that is what we've done with the system. And third, on the Nixle front, I will say that Nixle is typically used for more, we like to say, community notifications. A text message and email is not going to wake you up in the middle of the night for an emergency evacuation. And so you have to be comfortable with being able to get that text message or that email at a later time. And so typically those community information notifications, such as road closures that could be, impacted to a specific community, but they also can be general updates on, stay away from the area, just so we can reduce impacts on law enforcement and fire officials if they are responding to an incident. And so with that, each individual jurisdiction that has Nixle may use it just a little bit different. And so I can't speak to how each jurisdiction uses it, but generally that's kind of how Alert Marins can support those Nixle agencies.
So your recommendation to residents would be to sign up for both systems?
Unfortunately, that is my recommendation. I know it is sometimes confusing of which notification platform you're going to get one from, but just because we want to make sure that each city and town has the ability to send those messages out to their community members, we want people to be signed up for both.
Thank you.
Other questions? Jamie, what, do you want to ask him that or?
Well, my recollection was that there was an outage down in Tiburon because Main Street flooded and it knocked out the 911. That might be something that Gary or McKenna might have more information on.
I'll speak to the first part. The impacts to the 911 system that we saw that were countywide were fairly located to one single address, and they were not, the impacts were not due to multiple failures or multiple flooding events.
I apologize. I don't have information on exactly that question on that. So something
I-
no,
I-
it's just-
follow up on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Right.
PG&E has. So that is something that they are fixing.
Okay.
We're getting them to fix that. And
But we also need Holly to know that, that area that flooded floods every year. It was a little higher this time because it was a little higher. Right. And have you had any progress?
they were supposed to have already switched out.
That would be the next question to ask them. No, yeah. Steve, you mentioned that you're going to try to communicate more with the National Weather Service and other reporting services of that kind. We have been hearing for the past 6 or 8 months now that the current administration has been defunding the National Weather Service along with USAID and FEMA and everybody else. Is all that cause for concern on your part? And you keep talking about the aid we're going to get from the federal government. I think all of us are a little bit queasy about that sort of response now.
So the first thing that we need to do is just make sure that we are using every single avenue and lever that we have currently available to us. Just because we know that there may be some challenges at the state and federal government does not mean that we're not going to submit disaster declarations, that we're not going to go out and identify costs. We are going to use every single tool in our belt to make sure we can support the community. At this time, we don't know what's going to happen with the federal administration, if they are going to accept our disaster proclamation, but we are going to continue to try. And so as far as next steps with the National Weather Service, we are continuously having coordination meetings with them. Within the county's Emergency Operations Center, we have actually built a specific desk for them to sit at, for them to be able to sit as their alert and warning meteorologists, PG&E's team, and then also Cal OES and our alert and warning people being able to sit in one room. We have made that investment specifically because we do have faith that we will be able to have that coordination come together. We also are seeing some positive outlooks. So today we actually are continuously working with our legislative affairs teams to be able to monitor what's happening in Congress and looking at the Senate appropriations bills, also the congressionally directed spending to see if there is avenues for us to make sure that we can see what those tea leaves are. As of today, I know it's been a rough year, but as of today, most of us are fairly optimistic that a lot of the cuts and changes that we saw early on in 2025 will somewhat be remediated, and we will see some changes as many people are starting to see what the impact of a meteorologist not being there are. And so we definitely have still some concerns and reservations, but we don't also see that there's going to be a positive outlook, and then also that people will see that we are going to continue to go down the road of pulling every lever that we can to support our community.
And you said I think it's the Board of Supervisors has earmarked, what, 1.8 million to harden some of these areas that were hit by the flood. Is that correct?
We haven't earmarked anything specifically for this just yet. It's mostly the disaster declaration and the process that we're going through to make sure that we can bring in the federal funding.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
If I could, I just want to point out before Stephen leaves, the emergency portal that the County Office of Emergency Management puts together. This is a place that I would love to just direct everybody, in times of emergencies like the flooding. This is kept up to date by Stephen's staff constantly. It's going to have weather information, the sandbag map that he spoke of with all the different sandbag locations. It's got a link to Alert Marin if you'd like to check your contact information and make sure that everything is up to date. This is kind of a one-stop shop, and huge props to your staff for staying on top of this. It's so well done. So write down the emergency.marincounty.gov. Great site to go to. And the one other thing, in case you hadn't seen it, I did want to bring up, this is from Facebook, but if I can bring up hold on one second, I had it, it disappeared. Novato PD, they stepped in and got extra dispatchers on board, and the county actually patched all of their calls. I'm not going to bring it up fast enough. The county actually patched all their phone calls and 911 calls to Novato PD, who brought in extra staff, and it happened, I think, relatively fast. So while that 911 emergency notification went out to go to your local station was happening, they actually got a patch pretty quickly. And I want to give a shout out to Novato Police Department and their amazing dispatchers who took on all of the county phone calls and 911 calls until it was actually fixed at the county level. It was really cool. This is a plan that they'd had in place before, they've used before, and it did work.
Jane? Jane Cooper is our ex-mayor.
Thank you, Steve. Stephen, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, I don't
Steve, are you leaving now? Or are you? Well, if you need to leave, I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this at DC3 at our next meeting. Is that correct? Okay, good.
Anyway, Stephen, thank you so much for that report. We had a lot of residents that had questions about that day being stuck on the freeway. I hate to belabor it, but I need to follow up with Colin's question about the Nixle versus the alert, because up until today, I think we on the Tiburon Peninsula have been told that all we should do is alert Marin. And then you just said Nixle is more localized. Well, since we didn't really have flooding here, and do we even have Nixle here? And would Nixle have helped let people know that 101 was closed or terribly flooded and to stay away? I hate to put you on the spot, but it doesn't seem like we're really getting the crux of it versus the earlier thing you said, which was training first responders to know to call you so that a regional alert could go out, which to me makes more sense and keeps with the idea of staying with Alert Marin as the best option for the Tiburon Peninsula. But I guess my question is that correct or what? Thank you.
And thank you for the question. It is an ongoing challenge. I will say, and I will say that I just confirmed with Lori, Tiburon nor Belvedere have access to Nixle, and that is true across the county. Many agencies do not have Nixle accounts. However, what we are grappling with at the county level is making sure that we can maintain that agencies that do have their Nixle accounts can maintain their ability to have it and their independent use of it, as many agencies would like to use it for different things. So, for example, in the event that Novato actually has a pretty robust system and they use it pretty frequently. And so we want to make sure that that agency has the autonomy to be able to support the use of their program, but they use it a lot different than other agencies do. Alert Marin, what we want to make sure that we're not over alerting people with lower level notifications. And so with that, we do tend to reserve it for regional impact incidents, or we send out very hyper local notifications. So in the event that there's a shelter in place, for example, we're not going to send out a zip code based notification. We're going to send out that phone call and text message to those homes that have been identified by those agencies. And so it is a challenge that we are continually working with our partner agencies to try to figure out what that solution is. However, I do not want to go on I don't want to go out and tell members of the community don't sign up for People's Nixles, as that's inappropriate for us to do at the county. We will, in turn, we will work through the challenges and making sure that the right message gets to the right people when it needs to get there.
Jamie?
Quick question, Stephen. I get Nixle from both Novato and Napa, where my children live. Why is it that we don't have it in Tiburon and Belvedere?
So people can sign up for zip codes wherever they want. But the challenge that we run into is that each jurisdiction would be tasked with managing their own Nixle program. And so that's why you'll see a lot of agencies choose not to adopt a Nixle program, as it definitely takes a lot of opt-in support, and also people are used to just getting an Alert Marin text message. So each agency has the ability to make that decision on their own. And we're doing our best to work with the agencies to figure out how we can improve Alert Marin. Therefore, we can utilize that system both for Nixle type of notifications and those emergencies, but also limit people from opting out of those systems as well.
One avenue of thought, or one thought that a lot of disaster preparedness people have, is that what you really want in any disaster is redundancy in reporting. So, if Nixle, as long as they're not providing incorrect information, it may not be as local as we want, but it may be helpful to some extent. Steve?
Yeah. And for example, we actually have 3 redundancies built into our our alert and warning system. So Alert Marin, for us, we have 3 different independent platforms that can send out notifications to help with those redundancies in the event that they do happen. For example, we've had nationwide. There was a code red outage, which is actually a vendor. What we had happen is we worked with multiple counties, not Marin, worked with the state to have them be the primary use case in the event that there was an emergency, but also all the other agencies looked internally to say, what other platforms do we have? And so for us, we do have those 3 platforms to be able to send out those wireless emergency alerts, text messages, and more through those independent systems.
I remain still a little bit confused on Nixle. Does that mean that 94920 doesn't have a service for local, alerts?
So you can still get emergency alerts through Alert Marin. What many unincorporated areas, also the Tiburon and Belvedere Peninsula, they don't have those, very lower level community alerts, and we call them community notifications, which are more like, oh, the streets are going to be closed for a parade. We do not send those out through Nixle, but through Alert Marin, but they can be sent through Nixle if a home agency does have that.
So I'll ask the question: if Nixle has not been used by 94920, why is it being promoted on Get Ready 94920 website?
It shouldn't be.
Well, it's up there, Laurie.
That's something I'll have to look into. It certainly should not be.
And I have seen a couple of communications that have come out that are pointing to old websites. That is something that we're actively going through and trying to update those websites, and then also redirect those to the new Alert Marin system, as was reflected in the news or the email blast that went out this afternoon. That's something that we're working with the Sheriff's Department to update that material.
Just real quick, because I did not know that about Nixle, so I'm really glad I came to this meeting. So to kind of maybe reinforce what you're saying, I want to hear your response. So to me, the whole is I'm sitting in my house in Tiburon. I'm about to get on the freeway. I shouldn't be getting on the freeway because it's closing, right? I mean, I'm just contributing to the problem or whatever. Nixle doesn't let me know to not get on the freeway. I have nothing in the local, and Alert Marin at this time has made a decision not to notify, kind of local agencies to do their part. So how do we as citizens in Tiburon know not to get on that freeway?
So there's actually one more challenge that we run into before that is we cannot send out a notification on behalf of CHP or Caltrans closing the freeway or telling people that the freeway is closed unless they've confirmed it with us. And that was one of the challenges that we ran into that day is, we knew that there was flooding, but we didn't have the information that came into our office that said that the freeway was closed because we don't have that jurisdiction. And so there was a delay in getting that information from our state partners as to what the status of the freeway was for us to be able to send out that regional message. For example, Central Marin Police Authority sent out a notification that just broadly talked about king tides because they also had localized flooding in their jurisdiction, such as Lucky Drive area. So they were able to send out that notification. However, we as the county did not have the information from CHP that said that the freeway was closed and or reduced in certain ways.
But Adam, in theory, another source of that information would be the Belvedere Emergency Radio Station, 840. Now, Lori, are we equipped enough with that to provide that sort of local information?
Yeah, we can update that at any time with local information.
And in the event of a disaster, would you be the one that's broadcasting over 840?
It could be me or it could be anybody that's on duty at the police or fire departments, but usually it's me.
And that would probably be some of the most local information that we would have access to.
Yes.
Okay.
I also, the Belvedere Breeze newsletter, which is also the Belvedere Blast in the event of an emergency, or the Tiburon Tib Talk, the e-newsletters that they send out, they will send them out with emergency bulletins, and those can have a lot of really good information. And then I also, countywide, if you want to get information on road closures on the freeway, again, I point you back to this emergency portal. It's a great one to flag because that's going to give you information outside of our area as well.
And Jane, if I could ask you one question, from the city council standpoint, obviously you and I live on the lagoon. We're both concerned about the lagoon. My understanding is that Sally reported during one of these flooding episodes that we were within a foot of overtopping Beach Road. Is that correct?
It's correct that she reported it, but I don't know what she based it on.
No.
I haven't asked her yet.
Okay. Well, we should follow up on that because I mean, according to Ken Johnson on the BOPA board, we've doubled our pumping capacity.
Correct.
Which hopefully would prevent any overtopping, but that we need to follow.
I think she was talking about the Beach Road wall. She wasn't.
But overtops there, it's going to overtop.
Right, but I think that she was referring to that.
Okay.
And so one would assume if it were going into the lagoon, that the lagoon was low enough that it would, I think that's what we always plan.
That's the
But
hope.
it didn't happen. But yes, she
Okay.
did mention that, but I don't know what it was based on.
Okay, thank you. Steve, thanks very much. Appreciate coming down here and taking your time. Okay. All right, we will move on to new business. If that wasn't new business that we just talked about. This is an introduction of a new employee of the Tiburon Fire Department.
Yes, thank you for having us here. We definitely have exciting news here with the Fire District and the Prevention Bureau. We have our fire investigator, McKenna Romero, who brings a lot of knowledge and experience. So I want to introduce McKenna to y'all.
Hi again. It was nice to get to know all of you and introduce myself earlier, but just to circle back on that, my name's McKenna Romero. I am Tiburon's fire investigator and inspector. I will be supervising both Gary Musanti and DJ Heckler moving forward and reporting to Chief Danny Elkington. I come from Southern Marin Fire District, so right across the way, where I worked for about 7 years as their fire inspector investigator. I have a lot of experience with developing and overseeing anything from evacuations all the way through plan review, inspections, and investigations. I helped develop Sausalito and Strawberry's evacuation maps with one of our ops guides as well. So definitely have experience with some of the things that you guys are discussing. And I look forward to being able to help out and work with all of you.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome.
I think you'll enjoy it here. Mike Lantier was our previous fire marshal. What is the difference between a fire marshal and a fire inspector?
That's a great question. A fire marshal is a chief level position. Currently, our fire marshal position is left unfilled. We have an admin chief right now, Chief Danny Elkington, who's serving in that kind of role as overseeing. At Tiburon Fire, we use the fire inspector and investigator as a supervisory position, so similar to what you would see as a deputy fire marshal that oversees it. But a fire inspector and investigator, we work with the code, we help develop everything. It's just not that chief level position.
And do you have an office at Station 11 down here?
We do. We share, the three of us share an office.
Okay, good. All right. Other questions from McKenna? Good. Where are we? Disaster advisory.
We're down to voting on changing our name.
Oh, Adam. This is your,
It's my problem.
yeah, no, it's not your problem, it's your suggestion. Go ahead.
So just because I talked about it last time, and I won't read all everything, it was just based on what other people have done, I feel it's appropriate is to change from the disaster council to the emergency preparedness committee or council. The reason why is I think it speaks more than what we do. We're more about emergency preparedness than just disasters. Everybody at this table has expressed and done different things, organizing the groups. I just think it speaks to our mission, and I think it will help hopefully with recruitment and let people know about preparedness.
Good. Well, I will have to admit that the moniker that we have had for the past 30 years, Belvidere Tiburon Joint Disaster Advisory Council, is a bit cumbersome. Any other thoughts one way or the other?
I'll propose we vote to change the name, the Emergency Preparedness Council.
Do we have a second? Okay, any discussion from Jane? You have any? Does the Reed Union School District have any objection to that?
Could I just ask one question? Are we voting to change it to just the Emergency Preparedness Council, or is it the Belvidere Tiburon Emergency Preparedness Council?
I'll open that up to discussion. I know thought emergency preparedness council makes sense to the board to include it.
Well, it probably should
I
be
think
prefaced
that
with
is-
Belvidere Tiburon, yeah.
And if somebody's looking it up or, that
Yeah.
if they end up, they can end up
Sure.
on the East Coast or something.
And we accept that
I
as a correction or an addition to your. Okay, good.
So you're now voting to change it to the Belvidere Tiburon Emergency Preparedness Council.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, fire station number 10.
Just real quick, we did skip over the Marin Community Wildfire
Oh, I'm
Protection
sorry.
Plan.
Excuse me. Gary?
Okay, so on this, I wrote a little brief summary that I'd like to read. But at our next meeting in April, I think I would like to have a more comprehensive, maybe even a PowerPoint or a little more detail on it.
Good.
Today is just a brief
Good.
overview of kind of what the Community Wildfire Protection Plan is, known as the CWPP. The Marin County Wildfire Protection Plan, CWPP, provides a science-based assessment of wildfire hazards and threats to homes located in the wildland-urban interface in Marin County, California. Developed by Sonoma Technology, an independent third-party consultant, the Marin CWPP was originally published in 2016 and updated in 2020. The plan was created through a collaborative process involving Fire Safe Marin, local fire agencies, county officials, state and federal land management agencies, and community members. Its primary goal is to guide fire agencies, land managers, and stakeholders in reducing wildfire hazards and minimizing the risk of catastrophic fires in the WUI. At the same time, the CWPP seeks to protect and enhance the county's economic assets and ecological resources. The upcoming 2025 CWPP will integrate critical community data, fire behavior modeling, comprehensive risk assessments to develop actionable recommendations. These will include strategies for home hardening, defensible space creation, evacuation route clearance, and vegetation management. And as I mentioned, this is still in progress. It won't be completed till further the end of the year. And I'd say by April, I can definitely give a much more detailed, but I'm happy to answer the questions that you have now or that I'm able to, and April.
Any
Or so.
questions? Anybody in the audience? I guess we don't really know enough about it to ask questions.
I think that'll be our presentation in April, so we'll get to know a lot more about it then.
Yeah,
Good.
great.
All
That'd be
right,
good.
thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Okay, we move on to fire station number 10, which, as you all know now, is non-existent. Where are we with that?
I have a little bit and then possibly Lori, but right now I talked to Battalion Chief Elkington. The hole is dug, the location is set. It is ready to be installed and connected, so it's moving forward and very close. Lori,
Close to.
That is just the siren. The siren that was at Station 10 is being put
Okay.
back on a pole out there. So it'll still be standing out there, even though the station will not be done for quite some time.
How about the station itself? Where is that?
Yep, that's in the beginning of the start, they said 12 to 18 months, so it's looking like that's still gonna be at
That's
least
about- And we're what? Couple of months?
a couple
into that?
months into it, yep, so.
How is the temporary station working? All right. I mean, we've used that site before, haven't we?
Talking to the crews, it's actually really, they've been enjoying it. It's working well. It's, there's been no slowdown or any kind of complaints or
And I
problems.
haven't
So
even been back there. Do you have a temporary building or what do you have?
it's,
Okay.
I don't know, did you call it a modular, building? So it's, pretty spacious and it's definitely working well. 2 to 3 personnel on duty at all times.
And is this something you rent or
Correct.
and we just give it back to them after we're through with it?
Correct. The fire district is paying, I'm sure they're at least an annual, but, and then contract, to pay for this.
What do we have? One engine and the ambulance? The same arrangement?
Correct. That is what's there at that station. Yep.
Okay.
Or question. And I assume the response times are unchanged for both first due and second due?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's what they definitely, that was the part of the strategic.
A key
where it was
component.
located. That was a main concern for sure.
All right.
How that would be then. If you're going all the way out to Paradise K or somewhere like that, you know, getting from Station 10 to Paradise K is much shorter than going all the way from Seminary. Or
So-
from the seminary.
So it's on Tiburon Boulevard at the Baptist, just right to where Blackie's pasture is. And
Yeah, I know where that is.
And they did create a temporary driveway, so they don't have to go all the way to Blackfield. They could go out and make that right. So it's within, I don't want to speculate the time, but maybe like,
Still within the.
yeah,
response time.
within the response time that
Yeah,
would
You just
necessary.
drive a little faster.
Well, yeah, and you're the fire department.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit at that signal and wait for the left.
Correct. They do the lights and sirens, but that was a main, in looking so to stay within close and have the response time. That was a key in that location.
Good. All right. Okay, any other issues? We're almost 5 o'clock. Lori, anything else we need to, anybody else have any other comments, jokes, anything?
And Lori, could you send out the minutes within the next week or so?
I will do my
So-
darndest to get them to you.
Yeah, just that. just
And
so-
this video will be available on the town website, so you can go back and watch the whole meeting again if you'd like.
No, I'm just, sometimes if it's several months in between, you know. I'll be 69, I'll be 69 on Friday. You know, remembering what we did 3 or 4 months is, you know, when we go to approve past minutes, it's complicated.
I would also add with the Reed Union School District, you know, you have one disaster council meeting a year, which accomplishes a lot, but is not very frequent. So if you have any other concerns for us, we meet a little more frequently than that. please feel free to bring issues to us. Sure.
The floor is yours, Liz.
Thank you. I enjoyed attending this evening. This is actually I am the vice president of the school board this year, so I feel very lucky to be here and representing. And my question is, just in terms of notifications, so I learned something this evening about Alert Marin. I actually signed up for Everbridge and realized I did not, it does not transition over. So I need to re-sign up, and I just realized that, or learned about Nixle. I'm wondering what information can I share to the Reed Union School District families about maintaining awareness and re-signing up for Alert Marin, or should we be directing them to just go to the Marin County site? I know that some sign up for Facebook and Instagram and get alerts that way, but is there something we should share out from your
So I'm
perspective?
going to go ahead and answer this one. So Alert Marin is still going to be your best bet. And when Alert Marin was carried by the Everbridge program, that information did transfer over. That being said, we still want people to go and jump on here and confirm their information, because even when it was run by Everbridge, that was years ago and things change. So you still want to jump on here, and going through the emergency portal, the link on here will get you right to the Alert Marin page where they can update their information. Belvedere, Tiburon, we do not use Nixle. We do just use the county's Alert Marin system. If you wanted something local to point people to, the town's websites, the city of Belvedere website, the town of Tiburon website, sign up for the newsletters, and be prepared to tune into 8:40 a.m.
Great. Okay, I'm just going to continue to reinforce Alert Marin, and then
And the
the
Tiburon
websites
Police
and
Department
email.
uses their Instagram page pretty regularly. I don't know about the fire department. We're not as big on social media, so I wouldn't go there for emergency information.
But I think our standard response to your parents and things is Alert Marin.
Perfect.
That's what the county's going to use. That's what we're promoting. And it seems like very simple thing to do, but it is an opt-in. You have to call in, or actually, sign up for it. It will not happen unless you do something positive, which is a problem with it. And as a result of that, probably 30% of the community has signed up, and the rest of the other 70% after 2 or 3 years of pushing this, still has not signed up.
And if we
So-
could get help from the Reed Union School District to push it out to all the parents who are really a critical population that needs this, that would be great.
I re-up while we were sitting.
Yes.
And I want to just, before, I know we're almost out of time. Thank you, Colin, for bringing up the fact that Nixle was on the town of Tiburon's website. I've already sent them a message to remove that, because that should not be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
it's 5 o'clock. We will stand adjourned.
Stand adjourned, indeed.